The cafeteria smelled like burnt coffee and recycled air. Victoria Hayes stabbed at her salad, fork scraping against porcelain in rhythm with her scattered thoughts. Monday afternoon conversations buzzed around her like static. Earth to Victoria. She looked up. Sophie Bennett leaned across the table, brown eyes sharp with concern. Sorry. Victoria forced a smile. Just tired. Liar. Sophie set down her fork with a deliberate clink. Talk to me. Cafeteria had emptied out. Victoria's hands trembled around her water glass. The words she'd been swallowing for years suddenly clawed at her throat. Can I tell you something? Without you judging me? Sophie's hand found hers across the table, warm and steady. Always. Victoria took a breath that burned. I'm 28 years old, and I've never been with anyone. Not really. I'm still a virgin. The confession hung in the air between them. Victoria waited for shock, pity, awkwardness. But Sophie's expression remained soft. Why would I judge you for that? Because everyone else has figured it out. The words tumbled faster now. They fall in love. They have experiences. And I'm just stuck. I've tried, Sophie. But whenever things get serious, I freeze. Something always feels wrong.
What do you think that something is?
Victoria's throat tightened. I think I'm waiting for someone who sees me as more than just a conquest. Someone who wants to know my heart before they know my body. I want to feel safe and cherished and desired all at once. I don't want my first time to be just physical. I want it to mean something real. It's beautiful, Victoria. There's nothing wrong with wanting that. Do you think I'm being ridiculous? Holding out for some fairy tale that doesn't exist? Not at all. You're being true to yourself. And when you find the right person, they're going to treasure that about you. Victoria's voice cracked. I hope you're right. Because sometimes I feel so lonely. Like I'm watching everyone else live their lives while I'm stuck behind glass. And I wonder if there's something broken in me. There's nothing broken about you, Sophie said fiercely. You're waiting for something real. That takes courage. What neither woman knew was that every word had been absorbed by someone else, in the adjacent conference room. Nathan Cross sat frozen at the head of a table. Pen hovering over a contract he could no longer see, the door stood slightly ajar, just enough for voices to carry through. At 36, Nathan had built Cross Technologies from nothing into a billion-dollar empire. People called him brilliant, ruthless, cold. A machine in an expensive suit. He'd spent years cultivating that reputation, building walls so high nothing could touch him until now. He knew Victoria Hayes saw her around the building. Executive assistant in finance. Quiet grace, honey brown hair she tucked behind her ear when she concentrated, but he'd never really looked at her. Now her voice wrapped around him, vulnerable and honest. Describing exactly the kind of connection he'd stopped believing existed, Nathan rose silently and moved closer to the door. He knew he shouldn't be listening. This was private, intimate, none of his business. But he couldn't pull away. Something in her words had cracked open a part of him he thought was dead. You're just waiting for something real, Sophie was saying. That takes courage. Courage. The word hit Nathan square in the chest. When was the last time he'd been truly courageous about anything other than business? He'd spent years telling himself that emotions were weakness, that attachments were liabilities. He dated beautiful women, accomplished women, women who knew exactly what they wanted from him. But those relationships had felt transactional, empty. Pleasure without intimacy. Connection without truth. What he felt building inside him now was entirely different. Intense and consuming and terrifying. Victoria wasn't looking for wealth or status or power. She was looking for someone who would see her, really see her, and value her for exactly who she was. And in that moment, listening to her vulnerable confession through a half-open door, Nathan made a decision that would change both of their lives. He wanted to be that person for her. He wanted to be worthy of her trust, her vulnerability, her love. He just had to figure out how to reach her without revealing that he'd been listening to the most. Private moment of her life. Nathan stepped back from the door, his heart pounding in a way it hadn't in years. His hands were shaking, For the first time in his carefully controlled life, Nathan Cross had no plan, no strategy, no calculated approach. He only knew that he couldn't let Victoria Hayes slip through his fingers without trying to become the man she'd been waiting for. Nathan couldn't concentrate. Board meetings blurred into white noise as his mind drifted to Victoria. The way she tucked that strand of honey-brown hair behind her ear, the soft smile she gave everyone in the hallways. "What's going on with you?" James asked one afternoon, catching Nathan staring out his office window instead of reviewing contracts. "Nothing. I've known you 15 years, Nathan. You don't do nothing." Nathan turned from the window. James was his business partner, his closest friend, one of the few people he trusted. "There's a woman." James' eyebrows shot up. "Well, that's new. Victoria Hayes. She works in finance. What makes her different from all the others?" Nathan struggled to explain. "She's real, James. She's not trying to be anything other than who she is. She's not interested in my money or status. She doesn't even know I exist." "Not really. So what are you going to do?" "I don't know. I can't just approach her. She's an employee, and I'm the CEO. Any move from me could seem inappropriate." James considered this. "Then you need to be careful. But Nathan, if you really feel something for this woman, don't let fear stop you. You've built an empire by taking calculated risks. Maybe it's time to take a risk on something that actually matters." The opportunity came sooner than Nathan expected. He was reviewing quarterly reports when he noticed missing data from Victoria's department. Normally, he'd have his assistant handle it. This time, he walked to the finance department himself, heart pounding against his ribs. When he found her at her desk, that little furrow of concentration between her brows, Nathan had to remind himself to breathe. Victoria Hayes. She looked up. Her eyes were the most beautiful shade of blue he'd ever seen, clear and honest and startled. "Mr. Cross." She stood quickly, hands trembling. "Is there something I can help you with?" "Please call me Nathan," he smiled, trying to put her at ease. "I was hoping you could help me with some missing data. Do you have a few minutes to discuss it in my office?" He watched the flush creep up her cheeks. "I can come right now." As they walked through the corridors, Nathan slowed his pace to stay beside her. He asked casual questions about her work, how long she'd been with the company, making conversation that had nothing to do with reports in his office. Nathan gestured to the comfortable chairs by the window rather than the formal seats across from his desk. Victoria perched on the edge, tablet clutched in her hands. Nathan settled beside her, close enough to catch the floral scent of her perfume.
Tell me about yourself, Victoria.
She blinked. "I'm sorry. I thought we were here to discuss the reports. I realize I don't know much about the people who work so hard to make this company successful. I'd like to change that." Starting with you. The conversation lasted over an hour. They barely touched the financial reports. Instead, Nathan asked about her life, her dreams, her interests. He learned that she loved classic romance novels, that she had a younger sister she was close to, that she volunteered at an animal shelter on weekends. He listened with an intensity that made her blush. Nathan sat alone in his office, her perfume still lingering in the air. He'd never wanted anything as much as he wanted her. The next morning, Victoria found a perfect coffee waiting on her desk. 2 sugars and cinnamon, exactly how she liked it. Then came the books. First editions of her favorite romance novels, each accompanied by a small card in elegant handwriting for the woman who believes in real connections, because you deserve stories with happy endings. Always hold on to your dreams. Victoria knew they were from Nathan, though he never acknowledged it directly. She'd catch him watching her across the office, and when their eyes met, he'd give her a small smile that made her heart race. "He's totally into you," Sophie teased over lunch one day. "A blind person could see it. I don't understand why, though." Victoria twisted her napkin in her hands. What Victoria didn't know was that Nathan knew everything about her. Her favorite books, her coffee order, her weekend routines. He'd made it his mission to learn her, to understand her, to position himself as exactly what she'd been waiting for. He orchestrated chance encounters in hallways, asked her opinion on projects that had nothing to do with her department, found excuses to seek her out. Always careful to keep things professional enough that she wouldn't feel pressured, personal enough that she'd know he was interested. 6 weeks after overhearing her confession, Nathan invited Victoria to dinner. "I know this is unusual," he said, standing at her desk with his hands in his pockets, looking almost nervous, "but I'd really like to get to know you better. Outside of work, would you have dinner with me this Friday?" Victoria's heart hammered. Like a date? Yes, like a date. She should have said no. He was her boss's boss's boss. This violated every professional boundary, but the way he looked at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered made her dizzy. Okay, yes. Nathan's smile could have lit the entire building. Friday arrived wrapped in anxiety and anticipation. Beautiful without trying too hard. Nathan picked her up at 7. He'd chosen a quiet Italian restaurant. Intimate and elegant, without being ostentatious. Over wine and pasta, they talked like they'd known each other for years. He asked questions that made her think, shared stories that made her laugh, looked at her with an intensity that made her skin flush. "Can I ask you something personal?" Nathan said over dessert, his voice low and careful. "Okay. Why are you still single? A woman like you should have men lining up." Victoria's throat tightened. "I could ask you the same thing. I asked first." "I'm waiting for someone who wants more than just the surface. Someone who sees me, really sees me, and still wants to stay." Nathan reached across the table and took her hand. His touch sent electricity up her arm. "I see you, Victoria. And I'm not going anywhere." 3 months passed like a dream. Nathan courted her with a patience that made her ache. Flowers appeared at her desk. He took her to museums, concerts, quiet dinners where they talked until the restaurants closed. He learned her rhythms, her moods, her fears. He held her hand, kissed her softly, but never pushed for more. He was exactly what she'd been waiting for, and Victoria was falling in love. One night, standing in the rain outside her apartment after dinner, Nathan cupped her face in his hands. "I'm falling for you," he whispered against her lips. "Hard. I'm falling for you too." "Then let me in, Victoria. Let me be the one you've been waiting for." She kissed him then, deep and desperate, tasting rain and wine and promise. But as Nathan held her, guilt twisted in his chest like a knife, because Victoria didn't know the truth. She didn't know that Nathan had heard her confession that day in the cafeteria. She didn't know that everything he'd done, every gesture, every word, had been calculated based on secrets he was never meant to hear. The guilt grew heavier with each passing day. It sat in his stomach like lead, poisoning every perfect moment. Every time she looked at him with those trusting blue eyes, every time she smiled like he'd hung the moon, the weight of his deception pressed down harder. "I need to tell you something," Nathan said one evening as they sat on her couch, her head resting on his shoulder. Victoria looked up at him. "What is it?" He opened his mouth, but the words wouldn't come. How could he tell her? How could he destroy the fragile, beautiful thing they'd built? "I love you," he said, instead, the coward's confession. Her smile could have broken him. "I love you too." A week later, Sophie cornered Nathan in the parking garage after work. Her expression was cold, calculating. "We need to talk," she said. "About Victoria." Nathan's blood ran cold. "What about her?" "I know what you did. I know you overheard us that day in the cafeteria." The world tilted beneath Nathan's feet. "How?" "I saw you, Nathan. Through the conference room window. I saw you listening. And I've watched you manipulate her ever since." "It's not like that, isn't it?" Sophie stepped closer, voice sharp as broken glass. "You've been playing her from the beginning, using her vulnerability against her, becoming exactly what she said she wanted. That's not love, Nathan. That's obsession. I do love her." "Then tell her the truth. Tell her how this started. If you really love her, give her the choice to decide for herself whether what you've built is real or just a carefully constructed fantasy. Nathan's jaw clenched. And if she walks away, then you never deserved her in the first place. Sophie turned to leave, then paused. You have 1 week, Nathan. Tell her yourself, or I will. She deserves better than lies. That night, Nathan stood in his penthouse, staring out at the city lights. His phone buzzed with a text from Victoria missing you. Come over? His fingers trembled as he typed back, on my way. When he arrived, Victoria greeted him at the door in soft pajamas, his hair damp from a shower, face glowing with happiness. She pulled him inside, wrapped her arms around his neck, kissed him like he was air, and she was drowning. I have something to tell you, she whispered against his lips. Nathan's heart stopped. What? She pulled back, eyes searching his face. I'm ready. I want you to be my first. I trust you completely, Nathan. You've been so patient, so perfect. I want to give myself to you. The words should have filled him with joy. Instead, they felt like a death sentence. Because Sophie was right. He'd manipulated her, shaped himself into exactly what she wanted, used her vulnerability as a weapon. And now she was offering him the most precious part of herself, built on a foundation of lies. Victoria. There's something I need to tell you first. What is it? He took her hands in his, feeling them tremble. This was it. The moment that would either save them or destroy everything. The day we met. In my office? That wasn't the first time I noticed you, she smiled. I know. You'd been watching me for weeks. It was sweet. No. Nathan's throat burned. Before that, I heard you. In the cafeteria. With Sophie? The door was open, and I heard everything you said. About waiting for someone real. About wanting your first time to mean something. I heard all of it. The color drained from Victoria's face. Her hands went limp in his. What? I heard your confession, and I used it. I became exactly what you said you wanted. The coffee, the books, everything. I knew what you needed before you ever told me. I manipulated you, Victoria. From the very beginning, she pulled away from him, stumbling backward. You're lying. I wish I was. Get out. Victoria, please. Get out. Her scream echoed through the apartment, raw and broken. You listened to the most private moment of my life, and you used it against me. Everything we had was a lie? My feelings are real. I swear to you, what I feel for you is real. Tears streamed down her face. How am I supposed to believe anything you say? You've been lying to me from the moment we met. Every perfect gesture, every word, it was all calculated. You didn't fall in love with me, Nathan? You fell in love with the idea of controlling me. That's not true, isn't it? Tell me one thing about our relationship that wasn't based on something you overheard that day. One genuine moment that wasn't you playing a part. Nathan opened his mouth, but found no answer. Because she was right. He'd crafted their entire relationship around the blueprint of her confession. Leave, Victoria whispered, broken, and don't ever come back. Nathan walked to the door, then turned back one last time. Victoria stood in the middle of her living room, arms wrapped around herself, looking like she might shatter into 1,000 pieces. I'm sorry, he said. For what it's worth, loving you was the first real thing I've done in years. Even if I went about it all wrong, it's not worth anything, she said quietly, because you've taken away my ability to trust it. The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like the end of the world. Victoria didn't go to work for 3 days. She stayed in bed, curtains drawn, phone silenced. Drowning in the wreckage of her shattered trust, Sophie came over with takeout and wine, holding her while she cried. Not saying I told you so, even though she could have. I was so stupid, Victoria whispered. I thought I'd finally found someone who understood me. But he just used my own words against me. You weren't stupid. You were brave enough to be vulnerable. He's the one who violated that. On the 4th day, Victoria dragged herself to the office. She needed to quit to get away from cross technologies and everything it represented. She couldn't work for a man who'd manipulated her so completely. But when she arrived, Nathan was gone. He took a leave of absence, her supervisor explained. Indefinite. Something personal. Victoria should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt hollow. 2 weeks later, Sophie appeared at her door, face pale and serious. I need to tell you something. About Nathan, I don't want to hear it. Victoria, please. Just listen. They sat at the kitchen table, coffee going cold between them. Sophie pulled out her phone, showing Victoria a series of messages. Nathan contacted me the day after you kicked him out. I almost said no, but then he explained what he wanted to do. The messages showed detailed plans. Nathan was liquidating a significant portion of his personal assets, not company money. His own fortune. $20 million being transferred to a foundation.
What is this?
He's creating a scholarship fund, Sophie said quietly. For women who've experienced manipulation or abuse in relationships, therapy costs, legal fees, education expenses. He's calling it the Victoria Hayes Foundation. Victoria's hands shook. No, he can't do that. He can't just buy his way out of what he did. He's not trying to. He told me explicitly that you should never know about this. He made me promise not to tell you. But I think you deserve to know the truth about what he's doing. Why would he do this? Sophie met her eyes. He said that he can't undo the damage he caused you. But maybe he can prevent other women from being manipulated the way he manipulated you. He said it was the only real thing he could do. The only way to make his guilt mean something. Victoria stood abruptly, pacing the kitchen. I don't understand. Why would he sacrifice his fortune if he's just a manipulative liar? Maybe, Sophie said carefully, because his feelings were real, even if his methods were wrong. Maybe because loving you changed him. Victoria's phone buzzed. An unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered, Victoria Hayes. A woman's voice, professional and kind. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I'm a therapist. Nathan Cross has been seeing me for the past 2 weeks. He asked me to contact you. I don't want to talk to him. He doesn't want to talk to you either. Not yet. Maybe not ever. He respects your boundaries completely. But he wanted me to tell you something on his behalf, with your permission. Victoria's heart pounded. What? He wanted you to know that he's in therapy specifically to understand why he thought manipulation was an acceptable path to connection. He's working to become someone worthy of genuine love. Not because he expects you to take him back, but because you helped him see how broken he was. He says you deserved better than what he gave you. And he's trying to become better. Not for you. For himself, and for anyone he might love in the future. Victoria sank into a chair, tears streaming down her face. He also wanted me to tell you that the foundation is real and permanent. It will operate independently of him. He's stepping away from the company to focus on this work. He says if something good can come from his mistakes, then maybe what he did to you won't be entirely without purpose. After the call ended, Victoria sat in silence for a long time. Sophie touched her hand gently. What are you going to do? I don't know. Part of me wants to hate him forever. But part of me sees someone who's genuinely trying to change. Trying to make amends in the only way he knows how. Do you still love him? Victoria closed her eyes. That's what makes it so hard. Because yes. God help me, I do. But I don't know if I can ever trust him again. And without trust, what do we have? That night, Victoria did something she swore she wouldn't do. She drove to Nathan's penthouse. The doorman recognized her, let her up without question. Her hands shook as she knocked on his door. Nathan answered in sweatpants and a t-shirt, eyes red-rimmed and hollow. When he saw her, he looked like he might collapse. Victoria, can I come in? He stepped aside wordlessly. The penthouse was a mess. Takeout containers on every surface. Papers scattered across the floor. This wasn't the controlled, pristine Nathan she'd known. Sophie told me, Victoria said. About the foundation? Dr. Chen called me too? Nathan sat heavily on the couch, head in his hands. I asked them not to tell you. Why? Because I don't want you to think I'm trying to buy forgiveness. I'm not. What I did was unforgivable. I know that. Victoria sat across from him, maintaining distance. Then why are you doing it? Because you were right. I was obsessed with control. I thought if I could orchestrate the perfect relationship, I could have love without risk. But real love requires vulnerability, requires giving someone the power to hurt you and trusting they won't. I never gave you that choice. I stacked the deck in my favor from the beginning. You did. The foundation, the therapy, stepping away from the company. I'm not doing it to win you back, Victoria. I'm doing it because I need to become someone who could actually deserve you, even if that person never gets to be with you. Silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid. I loved you, Victoria whispered. I really did. You made me feel seen in a way I'd never experienced. And finding out it was all calculated, that you'd heard my deepest vulnerability and weaponized it, it broke something in me. I know. Those words aren't enough, but they're all I have. Victoria stood, moving to the window that overlooked the city. Nathan had stood in this same spot 3 months ago, deciding to pursue her, making the choice that had led them both here. I don't know if I can forgive you, she said, not turning around. But I think I want to try. Not for us, not yet. Maybe not ever. But for me, because carrying this anger is exhausting. Nathan rose, standing a careful distance behind her. What do you need from me? Time, space, honesty, complete brutal honesty about everything. No more manipulation. No more calculation. If we ever have a chance at something real, it has to be built on truth. Even when the truth is ugly, you'll have it. All of it. Whatever you need. Victoria finally turned to face him. I'm going to work with the foundation. I want to be part of making sure your money actually helps people. Not because I forgive you, but because if my pain can prevent someone else's, then maybe it means something. Victoria, you don't have to do that. I know. But I want to. This isn't about you anymore, Nathan. It's about me. About taking back the power you took from me and using it for something good. What? Nathan nodded, eyes bright with unshed tears. Okay. And Nathan, if you ever lie to me again, if you ever manipulate me or try to control me, I disappear completely. You'll never see me again. Do you understand? I understand. Victoria walked to the door, then paused. I can't promise you we'll find our way back to each other, but I can promise to be honest about what I'm feeling. That's the best I can offer right now. It's more than I deserve. She left without looking back. But this time, the door closing didn't sound like an ending. It sounded like the painful, uncertain beginning of something that might eventually become real. 6 months passed, like slow-healing wounds. Victoria threw herself into the foundation work. Meeting women whose stories made her own pain feel smaller, she listened to survivors, helped create support systems, watched as Nathan's money translated into real change in real lives. Nathan kept his distance, communicating only through foundation business, always professional, always careful. The softness in his eyes, where calculation used to live. The way he listened more than he spoke. The genuine humility that replaced his armor. They met once a month for foundation updates. Coffee shops, never anywhere intimate. Always public. Always safe. We've helped 47 women this quarter, Victoria said one afternoon, sliding the report across the table. 3 of them are going back to school. 5 got out of dangerous relationships. Nathan studied the report, and Victoria saw his jaw clench. This one here. Sarah Martinez. She was stalked by her ex for 2 years. Foundation paid for her to relocate and cover legal costs. She's safe now. Because of you, Nathan said quietly. I write the checks, Victoria. But you've made this real. You've turned my guilt into something that actually matters. Their eyes met across the table. The electricity was still there, humming beneath the surface. 6 months apart hadn't killed what they'd had. It had just complicated it. Can I ask you something? Victoria said. And I need you to be completely honest. Always. The first day in the cafeteria. When you overheard me, what did you actually feel? Nathan was silent for a long moment, choosing his words carefully. At first, fascination. You described something I'd stopped believing existed. A kind of love that was patient and real and earned. It woke up a part of me I'd buried under ambition and control. And then obsession. I wanted to be that for you. But I went about it all wrong. I thought I could engineer love like I engineered business deals. I didn't understand that real connection requires risk, requires being vulnerable enough that you might fail. You understand it now? Nathan met her gaze, unflinching. I'm learning. Dr. Chen says I use control as a shield against rejection. If I orchestrate everything perfectly, I can't be hurt. But I hurt you instead. And I'm trying to learn how to let go of that need to control outcomes. Victoria's chest tightened. Raw and uncomfortable and real. I have to tell you something, she said. And I need you to not say anything until I'm done. Nathan nodded. I've spent 6 months trying to hate you. Trying to convince myself that everything we had was fake. But the truth is, I'm still in love with you. And I hate myself for it. Because how can I love someone who manipulated me? How can I trust my own feelings when they're what got me hurt in the first place? Victoria, I'm not done. She took a shaky breath. But I've also realized something. The man I fell in love with, the patient, attentive man who made me feel seen, he wasn't entirely fake. He was who you could be when you let your walls down. The manipulation was real, but so were the feelings, and I don't know what to do with that. Nathan's hands trembled around his coffee cup. Can I speak now? Yes, I love you. I've loved you since I heard you in that cafeteria, describing exactly the kind of love I'd spent years pretending I didn't need. I went about it all wrong. I violated your trust in the worst possible way. But the love was real, Victoria. It's the only real thing I've ever felt. How do I trust that? How do I trust you? You don't. Not yet. Trust has to be earned, and I destroyed it before we ever had a chance to build it properly. But if you'll let me, I'll spend as long as it takes earning it back. Not through grand gestures or manipulation. Just through consistent, boring honesty. Day after day. Year after year, if that's what it takes. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. I'm scared. I'm scared that if I let you in again, you'll hurt me worse. I'm scared that I'll fall back into old patterns. That I'll try to control things when I should let them unfold naturally. But I'm in therapy. I'm working on it. And I promise you, if I ever feel myself slipping, I'll tell you. They sat in silence, the coffee shop buzzing around them. Two broken people trying to figure out if their pieces could fit together without sharp edges. I can't promise you a fairy tale ending, Victoria finally said. I can't promise we'll end up together. I'm not asking for promises. I'm asking for a chance. A real one this time. No manipulation. No calculation. Just two people trying to figure out if what they feel is enough to build something true. Victoria reached across the table, her hand trembling. Nathan stared at it for a moment, then took it, his touch gentle and uncertain. One chance. We start over, completely. You don't get to skip steps this time. You have to earn every bit of trust, every moment of vulnerability. And if you lie to me even once, I disappear. I know, but Nathan. If we do this, we do it right. Therapy, both of us. Communication, honesty, even when it hurts. Because I refuse to build a relationship on anything less than truth.
Ow!
Deal. They sat there, hands linked across the table. And for the first time in 6 months, Victoria felt something shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but possibility, though Nathan said, a small smile playing at his lips. I'm Nathan Krause. I'm a recovering control freak with trust issues and a tendency to overthink everything. I make terrible coffee. I hate romantic comedies. And I'm completely terrified of what I feel for you. Victoria laughed through her tears. I'm Victoria Hayes. I'm waiting for real love with someone patient enough to earn it. I read too many romance novels. I cry at dog videos. And I'm completely terrified of what I feel for you too. Want to be terrified together? Yeah, I think I do. Outside the coffee shop, rain began to fall, washing the city clean. And somewhere in the space between hurt and healing, between manipulation and truth, Two people who'd broken each other began the slow, painful work of becoming whole. Nathan walked Victoria to her car. At her door, she turned to face him. "This doesn't mean we're together," she said firmly. "This means we're trying. One day at a time. I know. I'm not the same woman you overheard in that cafeteria. That experience changed me. I'm harder now. More guarded. You'll have to work twice as hard to reach me. I'm counting on it. Because the woman you've become, the one who's strong enough to demand honesty and brave enough to try again. She's even more extraordinary than the woman I fell in love with." Victoria smiled, and it was real and complicated and beautiful. "Call me tomorrow. Not because you're checking up on me, but because you genuinely want to talk, I will." She drove away, and Nathan stood in the rain, watching her taillights disappear into the city. 6 months ago, he'd lost everything by trying to control it. Now, by letting go, he had a chance at something real. It wouldn't be perfect. It wouldn't be easy. Trust built on the ruins of betrayal never was. But maybe, just maybe, it would be worth it. Because real love wasn't about perfect beginnings. It was about two imperfect people choosing each other, again and again, even when it scared them. Especially when it scared them. And as rain washed the streets clean and thunder rolled across the sky, Nathan Cross finally understood what Victoria had been waiting for all along. Not a fantasy. Not perfection.